If you are just tuning in, this is NBC Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and I have a special free gift announcement for you. That's right. Get a free introduction to the Boots formula and meditation by joining our email list for business leaders, busy moms, and rock stars like you. To get your free gift, just go to www.sheilamac.com/free gift. That's right, sheilamac.com/free gift for your gift today.
Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mac's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. So if life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.sheilamac.com.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Dear friends, I had to share this message because I love you all the most. I'm happy to announce that my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom and back into action in any situation, is now available. The heart of this book was written for you. If you're going through a tough situation this year, if you've hit a rock bottom, I want to let you know that #1, you are not alone. And next, that you can, in fact, reinvent and reboot your life on your terms. How do I know that? I know that because I've had to reinvent and reboot my life on many occasions. I can go as far back as being a little child with my parents divorcing when I was very young, and then ending up going from home to home, and sometimes I ended up in very, very abusive homes. Later, I found myself at 10 and 11 years old, homeless on the streets, going from place to place and having to be very resourceful on my own. Then I found the magical foster care, and I went into this system, and I got to meet all these other girls that went through their own tough situations, and I got to hear their stories, and it was so interesting to me. I thought I was on this grand adventure. And when I was in this foster care system, one of the things that I did was, there was this big mansion house that used to be the orphanage nearby, and these people bought it. So I went up to the door, maybe the first or second day I was there, and I knocked on the door and I introduced myself and I said, I want to be your personal assistant. And right away they hired me. So I had this life where I got to see what it was like to be in the foster care system, to be in a group home, to not have family contact me at all, and then have these incredible people let me work with them and teach me all these beautiful things. I got to be their personal assistant until I emancipated. I learned how to do events and art and all these amazing, incredible things because I knocked on the door. So that's one of the secrets, is knock on the door and it will be answered. You've got to step up. So in all of that, there were just these times where I did something a little bit different, and I realized that there was this dance that you can go between these two different worlds, and that it's all about a decision. It's a decision on how you show up and what you decide to do with your life that's going to make all the difference. So with that, things got great in my life. I emancipated. I ended up getting married, getting into a relationship, having children. I wanted to give back, so I had 3 of my own children. I also fostered to adopted 3 more children. At 24, I was opening gift stores. I ended up having 5 stores. And with these stores, I had this entire program to help these kids get from foster care, get into a training program when they're emancipating, and learn all the different parts of running a store, because I always wanted to give back in all I was doing. And because of that, that's another secret. When you give, you receive. It's like this law that happens. When you give back, you receive many gifts and many blessings. And the birth of the concept of this book came to me after I had traveled the world and learned with the most incredible people on the planet. And then I got settled again after traveling for 7 years straight, and I bought this beautiful home in Ventura. And a month later, after I had designed everything, put all my furniture in there and made it just perfect, on December 3rd, 2017, I lost my home and everything in it. I lost my car. I lost my cat, all within a few days. Everything that I had worked so hard to achieve was gone. And I found myself moved into a little, it was a prefab home that I had made into a vacation rental. And it was fully booked because everybody had to have a place to stay. So I ended up staying in this little shed on the side of the house. It was less than 400 square feet. And oh my gosh, I got a little bit depressed for a few days, and I thought, wait a minute, what do I do? And I got on my rebounder. I did affirmations. I decided, and it was in that moment of that decision that my destiny was shaped and things changed. I quickly was invited to work in Beverly Hills at a new job. I had been working in real estate for years at this point also, and so I got invited to work there and stayed with friends there, and then got my own place. I was able to get a replacement car quickly, and all these things happened. And one day I went back to that little cabin house as I was getting ready to finally put it on the market and sell it. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's a formula that I've used all through my life. So I sat down and I wrote out the beginnings, the Boots formula, and the steps that I needed to take, no matter the situation, the steps that I had to take to get me back on track quickly. Within a month's time, I was already moved out and moving on and happy in my life, and people were still stuck. And I thought, well, that's kind of different, it's just, there's something different. So I wrote that out, and then I sat and I thought about, what was my inspiration? What was it that I had gone through all these crazy things in my life? What inspired me? And what came to me was the memory of being at my grandparents' home. And my grandmother was, she was very interesting, yet she was a businesswoman. She never lost her feminine, and she was incredible in her business. And she made friends with all these other ladies in her age group, and they would all get together and have tea or coffee and talk for hours. They would share their rich histories about what they've gone through. I mean, there was this one lady that had escaped from a concentration camp, and she lost her entire family as a young girl. There was another lady there that her husband passed away, and she had a famous restaurant in downtown LA, and she was running it by herself, even when that wasn't like a cool thing to do or acceptable. She didn't care. She knew, and she traveled the world, and all these stories that these ladies told me. I had another lady that her and her husband escaped a country with a new ruler, and they had to leave their home, their cars, all their worldly possessions, and come to the United States without even speaking the language and start over again. And, I was 4 or 5 years old, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have my own adventures and my own stories because life is like this. It doesn't matter where you're from. I was in Los Angeles, California. It's so diverse there. So I had these stories from everywhere, and these beautiful ladies that were my role models. I took their stories with me and I carried them with me, and they inspired me.
Chapter 5. Money Matters. Finance. Geneva showed up at my vacation rental with a car full of her belongings, everything she hadn't been able to fit in her small storage unit down the road. She told me she'd been moving from one vacation rental home to another, occasionally staying at friends' homes in between. She'd felt guided to visit me and had booked my rental for 3 days, but noticed it was available for the month. I don't have all the money at once, she told me. Can I pay as I go? I couldn't help but tell her yes. I knew she was in the right place. After she unpacked and got settled in, we sat outside on the deck for coffee and snacks. Soon, Geneva started to share about her own rock-bottom situation. She told me she used to own a beautiful 3-bedroom home and had been happily married with 2 grown sons. She had worked part-time for the school district, and her husband was a props designer. She started to cry a little, but tried to hide it as, with a deep sigh, she continued. Geneva said she really loved that man and thought she had a rock-solid, honest husband. He was a bit of a slob and sometimes got angry with the kids, but he was a good provider and always very loving. She always trusted him and kept herself busy working and raising their kids. One day, the power went out at the house. When Geneva called the company to have a repairman come out, they told her that her service had been turned off due to unpaid bills. When her husband, who'd always paid the bills, got home, he explained that it had been a misunderstanding and he'd taken care of it, putting the bills on autopay so she didn't have to bother with them. Soon after that, Geneva went to make a phone call and discovered that the family's cell phone service had been disconnected. She was upset and concerned, so she drove over to her husband's job site. They told her that he hadn't been assigned to that site that day, even though that's where he told her he'd been working for the past 3 weeks. When he returned home, Geneva asked her husband, "How was work?" "Great," he answered. "We got a lot done and the project should be finished in a week or 2. She asked where he was working, and he told her the same site she had visited earlier that day. That's when it all came out. For most of their marriage, instead of working extra long hours, he was actually visiting his other family. Yes, he had a girlfriend, and together over the last 10 years or so of their marriage, he and she had 3 other children. Geneva had been minding her business, living what she felt was a pretty good and honest life, when boom, the bottom fell out from under her. Then, just like that, her husband left her alone in the shambles of their old life. Because he'd been in charge of their money and paying the bills, Geneva hadn't realized how behind they were. Everywhere she looked, all she saw were final notices and bill collectors. They were upside down on the house. She didn't have enough money to get current on the mortgage, and her credit was ruined. She said she went into a deep depression from the emotional and financial fallout. She just didn't know what to do. She didn't even know where to start. Geneva admitted that she drank too much for a while, oversleeping and calling out from her part-time work. When there was a downsizing wave, she was the first one to get fired. At this point in her story, Geneva was in full tears, with little bits of laughter and waves of anger, too. As she mentioned her ex, she slammed her fist on my park bench. When she came to stay with me, Geneva was working for a temp agency and taking part-time cleaning jobs on the side. She joked about how she'd seen a van advertising a topless maid service and admitted she was inches away from calling to apply just for the extra money. It was a joke, yet it spoke to a serious feeling. How on earth could she ever get ahead? The true cost. Situations we can't control or predict, ones that have serious financial consequences, happen more often than we'd like. We don't want to believe that this can happen to us. It's not something you'd ever want to think about or prepare for. Geneva had certainly never thought it was possible, but if the unexpected happens, you may find yourself in a financial pinch or even a financial catastrophe. Your financial circumstances change throughout your life, but when those changes are accompanied or even caused by a major life shift, that can lead to a rock bottom. Bouncing back from a financial rock bottom consists of 3 steps, which we'll look at in this chapter. Step 1. Evaluate where you are financially. The activity at the end of the chapter walks you through this step. Step 2. Use your resourcefulness to get where you need to be to support yourself and your family if you have children. Step 3. Once you have that stability, you can start looking for other opportunities to invest and potentially grow your money. Face the dragon. Whether you are going through a catastrophic event or financial hardship, the first step is to take an honest look at your financial picture. Maybe your husband did the finances. Maybe you did the finances and he helped do something else, but now you have to take over everything. If you've never had to manage your finances entirely on your own, or even if you have been in charge of your finances, you can learn how to manage them better. When you're going through the finances, it can feel like you have nothing left over after paying your bills. You almost want to give up or not even look. Just throw the bills in a drawer and worry about them when the money shows up. Then, once the drawer is full, you throw them on the floor of the closet, wondering where the money is going to come from. Your financial situation gets worse and worse until you can't even qualify to buy a vacuum. It happens. Financial stress is hard and scary. But there's something really empowering about taking an honest look at your financial situation and learning where to go from here. I call this facing the dragon. If you are behind in your bills, there are ways you can negotiate or make arrangements for your payments. People are so afraid to just pick up the phone and call the bill collector or credit card company. Call American Express and say, "Hey, I had a death in my family and I need more time to pay." Oftentimes, they'll give it to you. If your credit isn't good, I strongly suggest working with a credit repair service. Most of these services will actually write letters to your creditors on your behalf, removing or consolidating payments. After they get down to any bills that cannot be removed, many of them will actually get on a 3-way call and help you go through the negotiations to lower your payments. If you are going about this alone, it may be best to have a friend or family member that you trust get on the line with you or review what to say prior to calling in. I've worked with hundreds of clients who've had to repair their credit to qualify for a home loan or who had to rebuild their score due to a rock-bottom scenario. They all said it was far easier than they had imagined and that once they got through the first call or two, they no longer had the stress or fear. Our minds tend to jump to the worst-case scenario very quickly, but once we face the dragon, take that really painful first step, and do the work, it's a huge relief as some of that stress disappears. Taking this first step will give you a sense of getting back into control as you rebuild your financial house. But it doesn't happen all at once. If this is where you've hit rock bottom, it takes time to get through it and start going back up. What you have to do isn't really hard, but it might take a few days, weeks, or even months of making calls and arranging payment plans until you're back in the driver's seat. Ask for help. Just because you're learning to manage your finances yourself doesn't mean that you won't need help. You don't have to do it all on your own. One way to make a financial situation feel less scary is to get advice on how to handle it. A financial planner, credit counselor, money manager, accountant, or attorney may be able to help you come up with a strategic plan. If you can't afford to see one of these professionals, or if you want to take more control, the activity at the end of this chapter will help you come up with your own plan. And you can visit the resources section of my website, www.sheilamac.com/finances for links to free, basic financial services. You are disempowered when you don't have a plan. The longer you go without a plan, throwing bills in a drawer, the more you mess up your credit and cause other trouble in your life that you don't need. The sooner you face it and do the work, the better. When you do have that plan in place, you just follow it. It's cleaner that way, and it's empowering. The IRS or the president? When I was 24 years old and my daughter was a few months old, I was in the second year of running my gift store business. I had figured out how to design the store, make it beautiful, and serve the customers, but I really sucked at accounting. I was making enough money, so accuracy wasn't a big deal for me. I didn't worry about counting every penny. I knew what my account balance was, but when I did my state taxes, I would just round off the numbers for income and expenses. I didn't know you aren't supposed to do that. One day, 4 people wearing black suits and almost invisible headsets walked in. They were not my typical gift store customers. My stomach dropped. Had I screwed up on my taxes? Was the IRS coming to take away my store or me? I considered grabbing the baby and running, but instead remembered how to follow the training I gave my staff and treat every customer like a movie star. I'm glad I didn't run. Then President Clinton walked into my store. He had been speaking at Glendale Community College nearby and then visited some local businesses. The suits were his Secret Service staff. I gave him a gift of Crabtree and Evelyn fragrances for men and the top-selling ladies' fragrance for Hillary. He held the baby and we took a picture. That was sadly lost in the fire I told you about in a previous chapter. The few minutes of fear I had when the suits walked in convinced me I needed someone else to manage my accounting. The next day, I hired a CPA. One of the first things he told me was, "You have to use real numbers." It's kind of a giveaway when everything ends in 0. Ideally, you can get the help you need when things are good, so you already have a plan in place in case things go bad. Be resourceful. A financial rock bottom can happen at any time and be caused by any number of situations. Whether your life shift is planned or unplanned, an unexpected medical emergency, going through a divorce, death of a spouse or partner, or getting laid off from a job, that life shift is also causing a shift in your finances. To better deal with life circumstances, you may choose to shift from full-time to part-time work, resulting in lower income. The shift from 2 incomes to 1 or to simply having less income than you're used to requires both a psychological and financial adjustment. If you lose a job, you can evaluate your situation and look for what you want to do next. But when you're not necessarily looking for a new job, or when a spouse loses his job and is going through an extended period of unemployment, or one of you goes back to school, you have to be resourceful in how you approach your life plan. Tony Robbins says, "It's not the lack of resources, it's your lack of resourcefulness that stops you." The resourceful person is going to fare so much better than the one who's not. Being resourceful is going to take you outside of your comfort zone, but it also leads to thinking outside the box. When I bought my little house, one of my friends told me, "You should just rent an apartment. You can't afford to fix up this house, and there's no way you're going to make an income from it." She couldn't fathom how many times I had made successful real estate investments before with many other properties. A regular 9-to-5 office job would never pay me what I made investing in real estate. They said, "We love you. Good luck with that. We'll be here to help you when you're ready to move into an apartment or need a job referral." A month later, I had 3 different units that I had created out of this small place. I lived in one of them and rented out the others, making an average of $5,000 a month in a little cabin. How did I do it? I sat down and I created a mind map and then a vision dream board to really get clear on the possibilities. I knew from past experience that this was an area I could turn to when needed. I also did a rough estimate on the cost of the project and decided that if I did most of the labor myself, I would be able to make this project pencil, even on my shoestring budget. I knew design from my big store, so I did all the design work and painted the place myself. Resourcefulness is so important. You can't wallow in the rock bottom and mourn the lifestyle that you no longer have. Instead, look for ways to replace your lost income and ask yourself, what can you do that other people haven't thought of? Do you have a unique idea, skill, or area of expertise? What can you make or find cheaply and sell, whether it's on Craigslist, eBay, Etsy, or Amazon? What previous experience do you have that will serve you in new endeavors? Who can you help? For example, if you've taught in the past or have a strong skill, perhaps you're interested in tutoring online. There are services that connect you with clients, so you don't have to spend money on an office or marketing. You just need an internet connection. The most important question is, how can you move from your rock bottom to someplace better? I've lived outside the box for so long that I don't even know there is a box. Join me in this better place. Investment strategies. When you first start rebuilding a foundation to a new life or reinventing yourself after a financial rock bottom, you are the captain of your ship. Nobody else is going to steer it for you, just as nobody else will be as invested in your outcomes as you are. Many women think they can hand off control of their money and investments to someone without staying involved. But financial success is not going to just magically happen. Only you have your best interest at heart. It's important to know that, even if it's very scary to contemplate how to manage your money, particularly if you've never done it before, and even if you hire a financial advisor or money manager, you still need to stay involved in how they manage your money, and ultimately you decide whether to follow the investment advice they provide. A friend of mine, a life coach, called me about an emergency situation with a client of hers, whom I'll call Betsy. Because of my experience in real estate, she asked if I would talk with Betsy about an investment she was planning to make. Betsy was going to take out a loan for $200,000 to invest in building homes in another state. The lender was going to charge her 13%, but somehow, if the homes ever get built or actually exist, she could expect to make about $200 a month in income. We spoke for a couple hours, starting with easy questions like, have you done your due diligence? Betsy knew nothing about the company or the homes and had never been to the site. As we talked, it came out that she'd recently gotten divorced and was having to adjust her lifestyle. This investment opportunity sounded like an easy way to make some money every month without having to do any extra work, but the company was preying on Betsy's desperation. By the time we did the numbers on the loan, with no guaranteed return on investment, she was at a loss. But we looked at Betsy's budget and easily found places she could make small changes and save more than $200 a month. The only investment she needed was investing in changing her mindset. Unfortunately, a lot of women feel that they have to jump at the first opportunity to earn money, but even though they think they're doing the right thing, it can lead to a bad place. When considering investment strategies, you want to have caution and make sure you have emergency savings first. Consider your options. Lowering your expenses can often result in as much or more income than an investment. Talk to more than one person about different methods of investing. Have family, friends, or a CPA, someone you trust and who has a good track record with finances. Review your plan before you pull the trigger so you don't shoot yourself in the foot. Remember that if it sounds too good to be true, it is. There's working smarter, and then there's someone conning you out of your hard-earned money. Check the Better Business Bureau to see if the company has good reports and to make sure there aren't any claims filed against the company. Call the resources or ask to speak to client references to see if they are still happy clients a year or so later. Before you sign a contract, review it with an attorney or someone experienced in the field. Read each line, and if you don't understand something, get clarification. Also sign in a place with witnesses and all parties present, or use DocuSign. I had someone alter a contract after my signature was in place, and it cost me a fortune to prove. Lessons learned that way are hard and costly ones. Keep business to business, especially if doing business or any form of partnership with family or friends. Get legal contracts, put it all in writing. Make sure that you are all on the same page, and get legal counsel before any problem happens so that nothing goes wrong. Losing family and friends is not worth the cost. Doing your due diligence requires a little more work up front, but it ensures that you don't find yourself in a situation more desperate than the one you're trying to leave. Do what you know. The best advice I can offer around investment is do what you know. If you don't know anything about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, that's probably not the best investment to start with. Stick with something you have studied or that you have past experience with. Ask yourself, where have I made money in the past? What has produced money for you or somebody in your family who could help and mentor you? What resources and knowledge do you have? For example, I know real estate. I've bought and sold 27 buildings and properties and done 1031 exchanges. I do very well in real estate investment, making 40% or more on the cash flow side and quite a bit on my sales. On the personal side, I have the experience of remodeling and working with a construction crew at a job site. I know how to do that really well, so I'm not going to start investing in stock options. I have a friend who does well with this type of investment, and she's offered to walk me through it. If I decided to take a chance on that new strategy, I'm going to start by investing a tiny amount. So little that if I lose it all because I make a mistake, it'll be okay. Investing can be a gamble, but I'm reducing my risk by getting help from a friend who's great at making money this way. Learn from the best. Along those lines, it's important to learn from the best people possible for your chosen strategy. One way I've done that is by going to Platinum Wealth Mastery, an event where top leaders in finance come out and teach you about finance and what's happening in the world. It's a small room with maybe 100 people, and we learn directly from them. Steve Forbes and former President Clinton spoke, along with Harry Dent and Ray Dalio. It was a beautiful opportunity to learn about their perspective on that year's finances and how to invest. We also went through our individual finances, looking at how we invested in our businesses and lives. A group of us from that event still meet for mastermind programs on a regular basis to keep ourselves on track with our finances. We stay in the community because we get so much out of it. Learning from the best has helped me, as well as my clients and friends, to make some really good financial decisions. Applying the Boots formula to finances. When getting yourself out of a financial rock bottom, you have to be clear on what you need and how you're going to get that. Being. Start, as always, by asking yourself, who are you being, and who do you need to show up as in order to get your life back into order? Being a victim, somebody who got run over by life, is not going to get you out of this rock bottom. You have to be your strong self and show up for yourself so that you can get out of that place. Are you in charge of your life, or are you going to let other people tell you what to do with your finances or investments? You have to take charge. If you haven't played that role in this area of your life before, you can pull from other areas of your life where you're really good at being in charge. Take that personality trait and apply it to money and investment. We all have that leader inside of us. We are all capable of making a really sound decision. Those decisions don't always happen in the middle of chaos, but if you can set aside the emotion for a moment to focus on what you really need, you'll know what's best for your situation. I like to do this by pretending. I have my coaching clients pretend to give a close friend advice to help her get through a difficult financial journey. You will be pleasantly surprised at the insight that shows up when you take the emotion out of the equation. That way, when people start offering you the sun, moon, and stars to get their hands on your money, you won't give up everything you have. The person who isn't going through the emotional trauma would never say yes to that, so draw on that strength and take charge. Orientation. Face the dragon. Be realistic about how difficult and overwhelming financial rock bottoms can feel. Don't ignore them, and then own up to your part in getting to this place and take control over where you go from here. The moment the blame game stops, even if it truly was a situation completely out of your control, that's the instant you become emancipated from the past. If someone else is in control of your present situation, you're not. So once you decide to truly take your power back, there is freedom in that simple choice. Where are you and where do you want to go? It's not better or worse than it is. This is where you're at. Knowing where you are today gives you a starting point, and then you can make a map of the steps to take in order to get you where you want to go. You can also ask yourself, what is it going to look like if I do this? What will it really look like in 6 months, a year, 2 years? How will it affect your life then? What if something happens? You don't want to put everything in one basket, rely on that, and then have it not work out. Order of operations. At this point, you're looking at the things you need to get done and asking, what is my next action? You're going to look at the results you see where you need to change direction a little bit, but you have a target, you know where you're going, and you have an action plan. This may be a big shift, and you may have to work extra or put in some overtime, and that's going to be difficult. It does pay off, but it doesn't pay off in a day. You may have to be dedicated and put in the time and the work for a while. There's always the lag time between when you start to do something and when the results start to show up. You think, I'm putting in so many hours and receiving nothing in return. I could just go sit at the beach and get the same results. But once you get past that point and reach equilibrium, things catch up, and now you have a new identity in the financial area. On those days when you'd rather go to the beach, you have to stay and do the work. Then you'll start to see it explode and take off, and all the results will finally start showing up, and it gets easier. Then you can take that time and celebrate and go to the beach. Thinking. When you're in survival mode, you can't think straight. You don't even have time to think. You just need to know how you're going to survive. Your adrenaline is up. Everything is heightened. You're scared, and it's a terrible place to make decisions from. But once you start to make small shifts, you can get yourself some footing on solid ground. This creates some breathing room so you can take the next small step and take some time to think clearly about your future. You have to have a vision, and you need to walk into that, acting as if the outcome is guaranteed. You've got to own it, act as if, and believe it. You're putting your passion into it, and the vision is so clear you can see it. You can taste it. You can feel it and smell it. It's that real to you. Stepping up. Having the vision is only the first step. You have to do the work that's required to get there. Focus on what you're going toward instead of what you're going through. You can use your energy to cry and worry and be upset, or you can use it to fuel your future and reinvent yourself and the new life that you desire. From financial rock bottom to moment of empowerment. Remember Geneva from the story at the beginning of this chapter? During the 3 months she ended up staying with me, I guided Geneva through the Boots formula. After just our first discussion, the look in her eyes changed from that of a person who had given up to someone who had some hope. Each step in the process brought her to a more confident, happy place. The first thing that Geneva had to do was decide who she was going to be now. Initially, all she wanted to do was get back to the day before she found out, so she didn't have to deal with any of this fallout. But it happened, and there are no time machines to take you back. Geneva was not responsible for her ex-husband's actions, and blaming him wasn't helping the situation. She also had to stop blaming herself for thinking she had a different family arrangement than what was actually going on. She had to forgive herself for missing things because she trusted her husband. This awful thing happened to her, and she had to own her part and take personal responsibility for what she could change in her own life. She had to face the aftermath of the situation and acknowledge, this is where I am now. These are my finances. This is what my situation really looks like. Geneva was living day by day, not even paycheck to paycheck. She had to be really honest about where she was with all the different parts of her life, where she was before this event happened, and where she wanted to be now. She was paying a lot in rent for the storage unit to hang on to her things, but she didn't always know if she had a place to sleep at night. We first found a storage unit that was much cheaper. The first of many little steps like that, so she could buy herself the breathing space and get through that desperate survival mode. Geneva's credit wasn't good after all those missed bills, and she didn't have money for a deposit on an apartment, so she couldn't move forward until she got some cash flow and solid employment. Over our talks, we got into remembering her essence, talents, truths, taking her skills and strengths from her past before she was a wife and mother and pulling those forward. We looked at what she loves to do so she could do something she enjoyed, but she also needed to do something quick to bring in some money and get back on solid ground. Geneva is an incredible artist, and she was also very good at keeping her home in order. She loved being a mom, and she missed bringing her kids to all the after-school sports activities, socializing with the other moms, and volunteering in her community. I introduced her to an agency that hires home assistants and nannies, and she found a family that was in desperate need of help. She ended up helping to raise 3 more young boys and loved every minute of that, and it didn't hurt that the job paid 6 figures the first year. Geneva is still very close to that family, which is very involved with the art community. During her time with them, she got to do lots of projects with the kids and also took up photography on the side. Now she started her own professional photography business. Geneva was able to reboot her thinking and take back her power. She stepped into a new habit of thinking forward, of reinventing and redesigning her life, not looking back anymore. She had already reviewed that chapter of her life, gone through the emotions, and expressed herself, so she put that part to sleep, allowing her to wake up and live her life. Now she's living the life she wants, thinking about the beautiful parts of every day and sharing it with her loved ones. Find the gratitude in the situation. Even if you've had a financial crisis, how you show up is crucial. You have to face the things you need to do, but you don't have to give it all your time. Don't stay up all night worrying until you're sick and can't function. Don't feel that negativity. Go toward what you want to make happen. Don't give all your energy to what you're trying to move away from. It happened, and you have to admit it. But once you've made a plan for moving forward, that's all the attention it gets. Once you've activated the Boots formula, don't dwell on the rock bottom anymore. Put your focus on gratitude and the good things that are happening because you've taken control of the situation. Don't wait to be grateful and happy after things sort themselves out. Don't put off your happiness. Enjoy the happy moments as they happen. It's an empowering personal choice to make the best of the situation and to find the gratitude in it. Reboot activity. Financial check-in. This checklist will help you check that your finances and paperwork are in place and show where you may need to take additional steps. This is especially important to review during or after a major life shift. I have reviewed my financial situation and, if necessary, discussed this with the closest to me. I have completed a budget and track actual monthly costs to my budget. I have blank weeks, months of expenses saved in case of emergency. I have a plan to meet my goal of blank by this date. I have a long-term savings plan and/or retirement plan. A list of my banking and financial accounts is located here. I have completed my will and power of attorney and listed a durable power of attorney for financial, digital, and medical or other roles to people I trust, and I have a backup person listed for each role. The will is signed, notarized, and a copy has been given to those listed. My copy of my will is located here. I have completed my living will, also called an advanced care directive. I have named a healthcare advocate and a backup person. I have given additional information and notice to my doctor. I have discussed my wishes, what I want and don't want with friends and family. I have discussed or written down the type of funeral or memorial service I desire and any instructions about burial or cremation. I have considered where and how I would like to be cared for if I were terminally ill and discussed this with those closest to me. The living will or trust is signed, notarized, and a copy has been given to those named or listed. My copy of my living trust will is located here. I have given this information to family members, friends, or legal advisors. Insurance. I have researched life insurance options and purchased the best possible plan for myself and/or my family. I have researched short-term disability and completed all steps. I have researched long-term disability and completed all steps. My copy of my policy is located here. I have listed my personal details in case of emergency when someone else needs to retrieve it, passwords, contact information, accounts, etc. Bonus Reboot. Rebuilding your credit. When going through a life shift, a credit and finance reboot is very common. Do your best to reduce expenses and limit credit spending as much as possible. First, understand your credit or FICO score. Most mortgage companies use the FICO to determine your loan and interest rate. Score range category: 781 to 850, super prime; 661 to 780, prime; 601 to 660, non-prime; 501 to 600, subprime; 300 to 500, deep subprime. Next, review your 5 biggest factors that impact your score. 1. Payment history, 35%. 2. Amounts owed, 30%. 3. Length of history, 15%. 4. New credit, 10%. 5. Types of credit, 10%. Finally, do a credit and financial reboot. I have an action plan or am working with a reliable credit repair agency. This process usually takes 90 to 120 days depending on your score, ability to pay down debt or restructure, and your willingness to follow recommended action steps in a timely fashion. Do few to no credit inquiries if at all possible. Every time someone looks at your credit score, it gets an additional hit. If possible, offer to pay a deposit for new utilities in lieu of the inquiry. Check with your local credit union or bank to see if they can help you refinance your auto loan and save on interest payments. Talk to your lender sooner rather than later. Many student loans and installment loan companies offer deferment programs or a forbearance on your loan. Call and ask if you qualify for any hardship services they may offer. If your credit cards have high interest rates and your score is in good standing, consider applying for a 0% interest balance transfer card. There are credit cards now at 0% interest for up to 14 months. Start or stop credit card auto pay. Bill pay is a great way to be sure that you're not late on your monthly payments because it makes it easier to track all payments made. However, if you have been using autopay and your budget just took a huge hit, you may want to hit pause while you make payment arrangements or until you know that the funds are available so you can avoid high fees. Check your subscriptions, especially those that are automatically charged on your credit card. Do you still need these items, or can you put them on hold for the short term? If you can't stop a charge, block that card. Call your bank or financial institution and put a hold or block on the card until you can get the cancellation to go through. Some of these steps may seem like a hassle, but the effort is worth it when you need to take your power back in this area. I have also created a no-cost 90-day financial reboot action plan. My gift to you. Dear readers, I have a gift that keeps giving for you. Go to www.sheilamac.com/moneyreboot to receive a free video series on how to get out of debt and rebuild your credit. If you've been struggling with having more month at the end of your money and can't qualify for a vacuum cleaner on credit, this program is a special gift for you. If you are just tuning in, this is NBC Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today I'd like to give a special thank you and shout out to the sponsors of this episode, TeamTreehouse.com. So let me tell you a little bit about Team Treehouse. Are you ready to launch your new career in coding? Treehouse has one of the best and most affordable online classrooms for you. At Treehouse, we've rethought the learning process and built a proven system to get you the skills and knowledge you need to achieve your goals. When you're done with the course, you haven't just watched a video, you learned, practiced, and absorbed a concept. Or choose to build a portfolio, create a network, and land your dream job with our bootcamp-style Teach Degree program. Land a development job this year. Whatever your goal, we'll get you there. Start your 7-day free trial today, and all you need to do to get started is go to www.teamtreehouse.com. This is Sheila Mac. Thank you again for tuning in, and I have some homework for you. So go and get your copy of the new Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. It is now on Amazon, Audible, Kindle, and all major bookstores. And get ready to tune in daily as I share the Business Leader Reboot. So that is starting a business, side business, or extra income. I don't care if you're starting from zero, rebooting, starting over completely. We are going to go through the steps over this year slowly together to rebuild, reboot, and reinvent your business and personal life, or your career and personal life on your terms. And I will also be sharing about investing in properties and how to get some passive income going this year as well. So stay tuned. If you are just tuning in, this is NBC Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and I have a special free gift announcement for you. That's right. Get a free introduction to the Boots formula and meditation by joining our email list for business leaders, busy moms, and rock stars like you. To get your free gift, just go to www.sheilamac.com/free gift. That's right, sheilamac.com/free gift for your gift today.
Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mac's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.sheilamac.com today.